All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are talking about a name you absolutely need to know in the world of AI, Yann LeCun. He's the chief AI scientist at Meta, a Turing Award winner, basically one of the key architects of the AI revolution that we are all living through right now.
You know, he and a couple of his colleagues, they pushed this really radical idea that instead of us having to program a machine for every single little thing, maybe, just maybe, machines could learn how to do things on their own. And that idea, that's the bedrock of all modern AI. But what's really wild is that for the longest time, almost nobody believed him.
I mean, seriously dismissed. The very concepts that power your phone, that power cutting-edge science today, they were seen as a total dead end. A fringe idea that the mainstream academic world had just completely written off. This whole story is one of just incredible persistence.
To really get why, we got to rewind the clock, way back to the early 1980s. LeCun is a student over in Paris, and he's completely obsessed with an idea that pretty much everyone else in his field thinks is, well, a total waste of time.
Just try to imagine that kind of isolation for a second. He's trying to crack this huge problem, how to train neural nets with more than one layer, something that had stumped researchers for years, and he's completely on his own in his entire country. He had to start looking outside of France for literally anyone who was on the same page.
So, how does this lone researcher in France actually find the handful of other people on the entire planet who are thinking the same way? Well, the story of how it happened, it honestly sounds like something straight out of a movie.
And this just shows you how tiny this community was. It all starts with a chance meeting at a workshop. That leads to a conversation, which leads to another one of the godfathers, Geoff Hinton, getting his hands on LeCun's paper, which he had to read in French, by the way, and he has this aha moment where he realizes they're all chipping away at the exact same problem. Hinton immediately offers him a postdoc job, and just like that, Yann LeCun wasn't alone anymore. He'd found his people.
Okay, so after his postdoc, LeCun lands a job at the legendary Bell Labs over in the US. And this is where all that theory and academic work finally crashes into the real world. And the results? They were immediate and they were spectacular.
Get this, 2 months. That's all it took. He took his ideas about these multi-layered neural nets, aimed them at a classic computer problem, teaching a machine to read handwriting, and he didn't just break the old records, he completely shattered them. This was the first massive proof that he was really onto something huge. Now, this wasn't just some dusty lab experiment. They built a real-world product that was actually put into ATMs to read the dollar amounts on checks you deposit. But here was the massive frustration. The tech was so far ahead of everything else that they couldn't easily share it. Everybody was using different computers, different operating systems, different code. They had created this working miracle, but they couldn't get it into anyone else's hands.
So, that difficulty, combined with this general skepticism that was still out there, it led to a period we now call the AI winter. But LeCun and his crew, they didn't give up, no way. Instead, they got strategic. They realized they didn't have a science problem anymore. They had a marketing problem.
And what's so fascinating is the psychology of what they did. The term neural nets had been laughed at for so long it just had this bad reputation. So, they came up with a new name, deep learning. It sounded new, it sounded sophisticated, and it let them totally escape all the baggage of the past.
And then came the masterstroke. And this was all orchestrated by Geoff Hinton. It was this brilliant Trojan horse strategy. He got his best students internships inside the biggest tech companies on Earth, Google, Microsoft, IBM. And their mission was simple: don't start from scratch. Just take their existing speech recognition system and replace one tiny piece of it with a deep learning model. The results were just undeniable. In every single company, it worked better, way better.
And the effect was just explosive. This wasn't a slow academic trickle. As soon as the biggest companies in the world saw the proof, it was a tidal wave. In just a year and a half, this technology went from being a fringe experiment to being a core part of the smartphone that's probably in your pocket right now.
So let's fast forward to today and see how this all connects. LeCun is at Meta now, and you can bet those past experiences have totally shaped how he sees the future of AI. He sees a huge battle brewing, but it's probably not the one you're thinking about.
According to LeCun, we're all way too focused on this idea of countries competing, US versus China, and so on.
The real fight, he argues, the one that truly matters, is between two totally different philosophies. A wide-open, collaborative, open-source approach versus a lockdown, secretive, proprietary one.
And if you want to understand the sheer scale of the open source movement he's backing, just look at this number. 800 million downloads. That is how many times Meta's Llama models have been downloaded since just last summer. This isn't some niche academic thing anymore. It is a global explosion of innovation that's all happening right out in the open.
And this really brings his whole story full circle, doesn't it? Remember how frustrated he was back at Bell Labs because he couldn't share his amazing check reading tech? Well, now he's in a position to make sure that the foundational tools for this next technological revolution are available for everyone. It's a huge part of his mission.
So what about the future? I mean, with all the talk about the dangers of AI, LeCun has a much more optimistic and, frankly, a much more engineering-focused view on things.
This is the big one, right? The scary question that dominates all the headlines. This idea that we're going to build something smarter than us, and that it's going to inevitably turn on us.
LeCun's response to this is just so wonderfully pragmatic. He basically says, look, this isn't some philosophical destiny, it's an engineering problem. We don't build jet engines and just cross our fingers and hope they don't fall out of the sky. No, we design them with incredibly complex safety systems. And he believes we have to do the exact same thing for AI.
So his solution is this idea he calls objective-driven AI. The basic concept is you build these systems from the ground up with core goals and hard-coded safety guardrails, so that by their very nature, they exist only to help humans, safely.
So when he zooms out and looks at the big picture, the potential impact of all this, he doesn't see a doomsday machine. He sees a parallel to one of the most important inventions in all of human history.
Think about it. The printing press didn't replace human thinking. It amplified it. It spread knowledge like wildfire and sparked this unprecedented era of progress. LeCun believes AI can do the exact same thing for us, be a tool that amplifies our own intelligence, our own creativity, and lead to a new kind of renaissance.
So you go from a dismissed idea in a university in Paris to a technology that is literally changing the entire world. The journey has been absolutely remarkable. And it leaves us with this one profound question. If this technology really is our generation's printing press, what new age of enlightenment and discovery is waiting just around the corner?